They will tell you as soon as we got tougher, as soon as we got less PC, as soon as we got that we didn't care what they said or thought about us, we got more successful. And we started doing deals. You cannot do a lot of transactions without hurting feelings. You know, the old saying about to make an omelet, you got to break eggs. Everybody that's ever had an omelet, there's normally some kind of eggshell in it because they can't get all the eggshell out. Collateral damage. Doctor sent me an email last night. He had asked me something on his weekly report. I said, you know, we've got a hormone doctor going to be in this group, medical doctor. And he said, and made some remark. I didn't tell him if it was male or female. He's looking at apparently the Google, or not the Google, the YouTube to figure out which one it is. But last night you saw a film about one of the legendary CEOs of all time, Steve Jobs. We have a pretty widespread, not so much in age, but we have a widespread in geographic locations. And as I said yesterday, the demographics, my demographics used to be 35 to 55. And then about 5, 6, 7 years ago, it changed. And now it's 15 to 35, a majority of the people. We get approximately 20 to 25,000 new devotees to the site monthly, 20 to 25. And are not returning people. We get about 5,000 or 6,000 to 10,000 a month that are returning to the site as much as 200 times a month. That's where the Google analytics stops. If you go more than 200 times at the site, we don't know how much more, which 200 times a month is a lot. Because, again, 99.99% of all the people that have been helped with QLA over these years, I've never met. So only a very small fraction have I actually met. And since I stopped giving seminars outside the castle, the last seminar I gave outside the castle was in the last millennia, 1999. Since then, since 2000, I've only given seminars here at the castle. The results are geometrically different from a 3-day seminar in Cleveland where I have no accountability. I don't, I would know if you shit on my foot at the airport, to here where I have accountability of you for a complete year. For those of you that make it through the whole program. And as I said yesterday, the tighter I make the constraints, the stronger I make the accountability, the more success you guys have. I make you do what you don't want to do, to be what you want to be, to have what you want to have. But it's like pulling teeth. Now back to Steve. Steve, one of the icons of the last 50 years. I think everybody would agree with that. Describe him with one word. Asshole. So he's the second icon that we've seen, right? The first one was an asshole. And they're going to get bigger and bigger assholes as the week goes on. And success leaves clues. I've been called a lot of things. One of them is not nice. And I've been called an asshole. Success leaves clues. Now, let's jump to the last day. And I will prove to you statistically that almost every single icon that has ever been, from Attila the Hun to me, is a fucking asshole. Every single one, Pedro. Every cocksucker. What does that tell you? And given that you're all, for the most part, cunt snowflakes, what does that tell you?
Do whatever it takes.
Well, you need change. And with this seminar, for most of the people, not everybody, because some of the people, rarely we get somebody that's tough, but you got to change. And what we do here is we invoke change. And what the weekly report does, it helps you, it forces you to invoke change on yourself if you stay with the program. Not everybody stays with the program. But if you stay 52 weeks listening, who was I telling? Where's the Ruski? Oh, right in front of me. Okay. There's about 75 things you got to list. And if 70 of them says, if you don't do it or you don't participate in what you're supposed to do, you're supposed to write down, I cunted out. So in the first week, you're going to have between 30 and 75 cunted outs because you won't be able to do them. Then you go to week 52 and you've only got 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 that you weren't able to participate and do successfully. So you've got 70 cunted outs in the first week and 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 in the 52nd week. You will have evoked change, absolute change. You can't, you can't do any other. And the reason we use those words and the reason why we give you vaginal, we got to get you your vagina cream, and you, is because, and I don't mean that it's a part of a woman's anatomy, I mean that you're a coward. And it's, for some of you that I've already talked about, that's why the snowflake test has got 95% snowflakes, because if somebody spit in your wife's face, what would you do? Some of you have said, well, I try to ascertain if he had a bad day or not. Now, what the fuck's that got to do with it that he spit in your wife's face? You're gonna ascertain. I mean, you're gonna tune him up. You're gonna fucking beat him into the ground. You're gonna fucking suck his eyes out of his brain. Not ascertain if he had a bad day or not. In a much lesser example, when I was in Florida, and that little skinny kid from your country gave me a bunch of shit, I sat there and listened very politely, and then I rushed over right away. And if we hadn't been on camera, it would have been a different scenario. and I took the mic away from him, which was no big deal. A little cunt snowflake with a 1 centimeter penis. That's no big deal for me. But I didn't sit here and listen to his bullshit. And what am I gonna ascertain if he had a bad day or not? I've already told you, a man's handshake, shake hands with me, okay? The new thing for women is the power shake, which I find offensive. Well, she shakes hands stronger than most of the guys in the room, though. Steve's an asshole. He exhibits traits of an asshole. He was a tough guy. He changed the world. Henry Ford, arguably an asshole. Senior, first Henry Ford, changed the world. Genghis Khan, Adolf Hitler, Stalin. Most of the people on that wall, not all of them. We got Jesus Christ. I wasn't around, but I'm old, but I'm not that old. What else about Steve?
What came first?
He never allowed the facts to get in the way of what he wanted to do. He didn't give a fuck about the facts. Neither do I. Yes, sir.
And we use both hands, there are metaphorical gun against people's heads.
What gets measured gets accomplished. And I learned that 50 years ago as a young officer, infantry officer. You measure things and they get done. That's one of the biggest problems and one of the biggest challenges. We were talking about foundations and nonprofits, etc. Is because the people aren't getting paid. For you to hold them accountable is tough. Not impossible, because there are professional nonprofit, professional charity people that really get stuff done. But when you can hold people accountable, and what happened at the end, not the end, but towards the end of the movie, they want to go public. And he walks by the table and they were figuring out who's going to get the shares, etc. And there were 6 or 7 people that said, no, they're not going to get any shares. These are people that he worked with for years that helped him start the company. Very familiar with what happened with the Croc in McDonald's. And handshakes worked 100 years ago, but handshake deals today are few and far between. I'll take care of you. Don't worry about it. Those are, that's like lightning up my ass when somebody tells me that. What else about Steve?
Indifferent to other people's feelings about him and everything else.
I may be wrong, but I'm never in doubt. Every single person you're going to listen to in the film format is going to be very similar. And with the successful mentees that you've heard so far, you only heard one, and you hear another one today, they will tell you, as soon as we got tougher, as soon as we got less PC, as soon as we got that we didn't care what they said or thought about us, we got more successful. And we started doing deals. You cannot do a lot of transactions without hurting feelings. You know, the old saying about to make an omelet, you got to break eggs. Everybody that's ever had an omelet, there's normally some kind of eggshell in it because they can't get all the eggshell out. Collateral damage. Fred Smith, the founder of Federal Express, said, and he's similar background, similar age. He was a young Marine officer. I was a young Army officer. He said when he came back from Vietnam, as soon as he realized his mistakes, the collateral damage of his mistakes did not end up with body bags, meaning dead people. He says the rest was easy. So the worst I was ever going to do is hurt somebody's feelings, make them cry. And he built Federal Express, and he's one of the icons of business who's still running the business. He was a better manager than I was. I got thrown out. He's still there. What else about Steve? Yes, sir.
How many child initially, do the shit parent initially about the child made a little bit more effective?
Well, I mean, he denied that kid was his, but it was. And as soon as he found out, he ascertained, he thought that she was smart. Must be mine, which I found amusing.
She respected him?
Who?
Your daughter?
Oh yeah, well the daughter, although he was, as the story goes, and remember there's always 3 sides to a story. Yours, mine, and the truth. That he made his family live on welfare. But he's not the only icon that has made his children and wife or the mother of his children live on welfare. I mean, these guys are hard bastards. And Steve he's 1 in a billion, or whatever the number is. I don't know what the number is. But they all, not all, almost every single one of them has 99% of the same DNA. 99%. And one of the things when you get out and you're recruiting your chairman, etc., there's never an easy time to make a hard decision. Most of you buckle when you have to fire your first board member, because you're firing a 60-year-old person, you're 28, 38, whatever, and you've never done that. That isn't part of your experience. And for the minorities in the room, which you got a bunch of, when you got to fire a brother. And minorities, my experience, will take advantage of you if they're of the same minority. Not on purpose, it's just, hey bro. I never suffered from that. I always held Hispanics to a higher standard, and that was hard. Not for me, for them. But he was absolute when they went not public, when he showed it to the market, and it didn't work, so they had to bogus it up. He's not the only guy that's ever bogus. And of course now, in recent years, Volkswagen or Mercedes Daimler has gotten in trouble because the emission system didn't work and they fucked up the numbers. And believe me, there's tons of products out there that don't fucking work. There are tons of products. That's why they have these big agencies searching and, getting after them and investigating. At the end of the day, the big corporations are interested in profit, return on capital, return on investment, return to the shareholders. That's how they get paid. And hopefully it sinks, the product works, and there's a return on investment. I mean, Tesla is a classic example of the product doesn't work quite as good as Elon Musk says it does. Doesn't mean it won't. And he's behind the 8 ball because it doesn't come out as quickly as he'd like. It's very similar to the problems Henry Ford, the first Henry Ford had with the assembly line and making cars. But he said, if I listen to customers, we just have faster buggies, horse and buggies. Anything else about Steve?
Yeah, the vision and enthusiasm.
All the guys are enthusiastic. When we talk about communication skills, if you can't sell your dream, nobody's going to join you. Oprah Winfrey's got a saying about, it's not exactly important where the bus is going, but the people that you have on the bus with you, because you're going to morph, you're going to pivot, which is true. And if you are not enthusiastic, overwhelmingly enthusiastic, that's not been one of my shortcomings. I've always been enthusiastic. And I've had good to great communication skills. If your communication skills are 5% of mine, you have no problem being a billionaire. 5% of mine, 5%. And that's why I tell you, go to improv, go to Toastmasters, etc. I got an F in public speaking in high school. I got an F in public speaking in university, and I got a D in public speaking the second time in university. But then I went and made 250 speeches where I told you, and some of you don't believe me, they threw plates at me. They threw dinner rolls at me, but I didn't leave the podium. I emptied out auditoriums. My speaking skills were so poor. Okay, YouTubers, thank you very much. We have no death threats yet. Come on, get busy. See you later.